Yo, my people, this is Seth Braun. And in this interview, we're going to hear from Jacqui Becker. We're going to hear three sections. The first one's going to be, how did Jacqui go from a dead-end waitressing job to Good Morning America, national TV? That's a pretty cool question. The second part's going to be, Jacqui, why do you do what you love? Why did you choose to do what you're doing? What do you love? And the third section is going to be, what was the lowest point in your life and what helped you make the change to get to where you are now, which is, in your new home, in a great relationship, doing work that you love. So let's jump right in. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Heck
It's a full excavation.
Yes.
Should I plug in a headset so we don't get an echo?
It sounds good to me.
Okay. I was getting a little echo on my end. I couldn't
All right.
tell if it was showing up on yours.
Sounds good. I'll turn my volume down a little bit.
Okay.
So basically, this question I think a lot of people want to know the answer to is, how did you go from a dead-end waitressing job in Denver to being on national TV on Good Morning America?
In about 3.5 years. I would say by the skin of my teeth, but there's obviously a lot more to it than that. And honestly, to keep it as streamlined as possible,
Yes.
I just made the decision to stop compromising and doggedly, stubbornly pursue only the work that I loved. So easier said than done, right? Because there were bills to be paid. And actually, you were the one. I love that you asked me this question because it loops back to you, Seth. We were in Denver together, and it was your very first live event.
Yeah.
Vision into Action, and it was a 3-day event. And halfway through, everyone in the room is glowing. I mean, they're glowing and gushing, which is a pretty powerful combination, about how on fire they felt and how activated and how they were just ready to go out and manifest all of their dreams, and now they finally had a clear plan. And I was simmering. I mean, I was like stewing in my chair, and it was the closing circle, the second night of this thing. And you went around, and it was my turn to share. And I yelled the words, "I'm a little pissed off."
I remember it really well.
Do you?
I do. Yeah. I remember you I definitely remember you simmering.
And, I think I was as surprised as everyone else in the room. And maybe because you saw me simmering, you were the only one that didn't jump.
Right.
And you said, okay, well, why don't you tell us about that? And I said, this is all really well and good. I'm really happy for everyone in the room. I am. But I'm the one who gets to leave this, safe, glowing space, get in my car and drive to a restaurant run by a little Italian man with a Napoleon complex who makes my life miserable on the regular. A job where I have to take my paycheck. First of all, it's a rush to the office, the restaurant office, every Friday morning to get the paycheck before all the other employees, and then a rush to the bank to try.
Why did you have to get it before the other employees?
Because there was only so much money in the restaurant's bank account at any time. And if the others got there before you, you'd get sent away empty-handed. So
let me get this straight.
Yeah.
Not only did you have a difficult time with the boss sometimes, and it was difficult work, but payment wasn't assured.
Ever.
You might as well become an entrepreneur. I mean, it's
2020, Seth, all right?
Right.
It was to the point where I remembered having to go to a check cashing office, sort of down, where the off-track betting was super convenient. And they even started turning me away. So I remember when you looked at me and you said, you looked over one shoulder, then you looked over the other shoulder, and you said, "I'm sorry, are you waiting for my permission to quit a job that's not serving you in any conceivable way?" And then you paused for dramatic effect. That's your Naropa drama training.
That's right.
At play. And you said, because if that is what you're waiting for, you have it. And the entire room went silent. And I said, okay. You said, okay, what? I said, okay, I'll quit. And you said, okay, when? And I said, okay, tonight. And you said, well, now it's your integrity on the line. I said, you don't have to tell me that. I make a decision and I see it through. And so the next morning I remember walking in and you didn't make a big show out of it or anything. You just kind of looked at me and said, how's it going? I said, I quit. He said, good work. And we went on with our day. And, that was in the middle of the worst recession since the Great Depression.
Right.
I mean,
the worst economic climate of our lifetime.
Precisely. Yeah, it was, the market had crashed at the end of that summer, I think in August, and this was October of that year. And this, I was working 7 days a week and doing everything I could to scrape pennies together. And still not even when my checks did go through, I was still getting regular eviction notices on my front door because I'd be late with my rent. I was, and I'm not living a luxurious lifestyle at this point. I'm really just scraping by.
Right.
And it wasn't enough, and I was exhausted, and there was absolutely no sense of opportunity.
Right.
I feel like I'd somehow kind of opted out of all potential and ambition and the fire that had been in my belly when I was younger.
Right. So what happened?
Well, I thought, since you put it so clearly, I'm not even getting paid to be this miserable. I might as well be happy and poor. And, I had discovered a hula hoop of all things. And usually I have to say these words 3 times because people think that they're not hearing me right. They say, a what? And I say, a hula hoop. A what? A hula hoop.
A round thing.
So you don't have to adjust the speakers on your computer.
You put it on your waist. You go like this.
You're doing it wrong.
That's true. I am doing it wrong.
So I fall in love with the hula hoop of all things, and not what Seth was just doing, but a movement art. It was an entire sort of dance, modern dance that I absolutely just tumbled head over heels for.
Yeah, because people get into it. Yeah. I think like in your world, you assume that there's a lot of people who are into hula hoops, but for those who don't know, people really get into it. It becomes like a thing.
It becomes a lifestyle.
Right.
A lifestyle.
And then what do you call people who live the hula hoop lifestyle?
Well, hoopers.
Hoopers, okay.
Hoopers.
Mr. Hooper. I think of Mr. Hooper on Sesame Street. I wonder if he was a like a pioneer. Probably not.
I was about to go down a rabbit hole about that. I'll leave that there in the interest of time. So, what happened was, first of all, let me put it this way. I never hula hooped as a child. I thought it was stupid. I threw away a hula hoop that came to a birthday party when I was 4, still gift wrapped. And so, because the universe is hilarious, came to me 24 years later with another hula hoop gift from a friend. And I thought, the same things that I thought before, be polite, pretend like you like it. And I felt really guilty throwing it away right away. So I made the pact that I'd learn how to use it once and for all, and then toss it in the dumpster behind my house, and fell in love. And immediately, it's funny, the first thing that flashed in my head was, I'm going to be pro within a year. I had no idea what that meant. I did not know that this was a thing.
Wow.
And then I started telling people. And look, now with, my wisdom of the years, I know that if you say something out loud and you go public with it to other people and you set a timeline on it, that you get it.
Yeah.
I did not know this then.
Right.
So I was kidding. And then here we were, 8 months later, and I was suddenly getting paid to perform. Right. And it wasn't much, but it was euphoric. Because suddenly everything had shifted in terms of what was even possible in the realm of making money for myself. I had never experienced doing something that I loved so much in exchange for payment. And, I left Denver shortly after that. So, I quit my job the night of which we spoke.
Right.
And, within a couple months was on the road to New York. And I tell you what, I had no job lined up. I had no home lined up. I did have a bank account in overdraft, which was exciting. to the point where I had to call a friend and get money wired to me, get a loan wired to me to pay for gas to get the rest of the way. So I'm in full bohemian mode.
Right.
Get to the city, the only thing that I could think to do for money, because I knew I could have walked into any New York restaurant with my years of experience, get probably a really well-paying job. It wasn't an option.
So let me just get this straight. You're driving to New York, no money, no job lined up, no plan. And you, not only that, but you had to get money wired to you to actually make it all the way there.
Correct.
And then you decided, I'm not going to Waitress. And what did you do to make what? How did you eat?
You know, it's funny. It's like, now that you're recapping it back to me, it almost reminds me of, the story of an alcoholic who's like, I know it's an option. Every day I look at that bottle, I know it's there. I know how to do it. And, that was me with the potential for waitressing, because I knew that money was there, that I would actually get paid at those jobs and probably get paid really well. And so I held it at bay. And I was couch surfing, and, I had nothing but an iPhone. I didn't have a laptop or anything. That was the tether to all the helium balloons of my life. And I did the only thing that was really bringing me joy at that moment, which was hula hooping. And so with a friend, we donned these Romanian gypsy outfits that she bartered for in Romania.
Who was the friend?
The friend was a filmmaker and photographer. And so what had brought me out to New York to begin with was that I wrote a screenplay for her,
right.
Which was one of the things that I had loved and had never, really devoted much attention to. And so I just started saying yes to the things that lit me up. So that's what got me out there. And so, we actually raised a decent little budget for the film, but then blew it, in the process, of course, as you do. And so we found ourselves, even more broke than we were when we started. And I said, well, I can hula hoop. And she said, well, I can play piano. And she had a little portable organ on wheels that weighed about 40 pounds. A little wooden organ that we painted with flowers, and got a little basket, a little stool,
yes,
little hoops. We, would rely on the kindness of strangers to, drag this thing downstairs, onto the subway platforms. We didn't know if we were going to get arrested, but that's what we did. And
so let me paint the picture that I'm understanding. You dragged a 40-pound portable piano painted with flowers into the subway platforms of New York, and you hula hooped and she played piano, and it was it was street performance, busking.
Yes.
And that's how you paid your bills.
You have excellent recall. We busked. She would play the soundtrack to Amélie, the Jan Tiersen, lilting French gypsy music. I mean, it was quite a scene, and we developed a little bit of a following. To the point where, we think of New York as being this big city, but, if you spend enough time there, it starts to feel like a small town. And so we started running into people out of our, gypsy outfits who would recognize us. And it was making people's day. And to this, what was interesting was, at one point, I remember thinking, I have made more connections that have been more impactful in my life in the 2 months that I've been hula hooping on a subway platform in New York than in the 4 years of my undergraduate degree.
That brings tears to my eyes in such a deep, beautiful way, because you put yourself out on the line. You just went for it. You were willing to put yourself out there and look like a fool and not know what was going to happen. And geez, I wish I could do that more often. I just love it. It's such a great story.
Thank you. And I know that, Seth, who are we kidding? I know that you...
That I look like a fool very often? Thank you very much. Yes, that's true.
You've put your neck on the line your fair share of times. You put yourself out there all the time. The difference is, I think you raised kind of a good point. There's almost like a romanticism around it. I look back on it and I feel that too. Even just, it was, I'd love to say it was in my youth. It was, 15 years ago. This was 4 years ago.
Right.
And, but the thing is, we did it when we needed to. The goal is not to have to do that all the time. The goal is to put yourself on the line when you're up against the corner.
Right.
And you need to do that so that you can open, right, your potential back up. We don't want to stay in that space. It's just, it's a refiner's fire that we passed through.
Right. Yeah, it's unsustainable in a way to stay on the subway platform for like a decade. There's certain things that happen probably to the soul that aren't so good.
And bless those who do. But I knew that I was being called for something. I had no idea what it was. It was just that every day was a test of faith. Every day, and I knew from the very beginning my family was about an hour's train ride down in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew every single day, just like I knew that technically restaurants were there for me, I knew that technically my family was there for me.
Yeah.
If things got really bad, if I didn't have a place to stay, if I didn't have a penny to my name, I had somewhere to go. And I'm so blessed that I had at least that little cushion of trust and faith. But beyond that, every single day it was kind of like I started hearing this voice. In the little moments that I would doubt, I would hear the voice of the universe come straight through in full surround sound. What do I have to do to prove this to you? I've taken care of you every single day up until now. What do I have to do to prove? And so eventually I just stopped questioning. Lived fully I have to say, in my entire life, it was probably, even more so now than now. I was, living on the edge almost kind of forces a certain presence to get through the day. So I'm very grateful for that.
So there you were. There was the platforms. You were making money. And then what was next? Because we end up at Good Morning America.
Well, we don't end there, but yes,
no,
we did get
for
there
the sake
eventually.
of this story, we end at, let's say we end at Good Morning.
Storyline.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm performing on subway platforms, which leads to offers for work. Mm-hmm. The next thing I know, I became a featured performer on the New York art scene circuit, which is a very strange scene, fascinating. Found myself finally in a stable-ish, living environment because one of the gallery owners had a baby pig and he was never in town to care for him. So I essentially moved into one of the most beautiful townhouses.
So that was what the pig was about. I've often wondered where did the pig fit into the story? Right.
This is where the pig came in.
I see.
So from the subway platform, someone saw me performing, who I had actually met at a film festival in Denver years prior. And he said, "Wait, I know that girl." Right. And he is deeply steeped in the New York art scene. And he said, "I'd love for you to come perform at a show at a gallery that I'm doing." And from there, I was spotted by another gallery curator and brought into another opening. And the owner of that gallery, said, "Hey, I've got this pig," and I very generously said, "Well, I'm great with animals, and I'd be happy to train it. I'm sure you're gone a lot. Do you have an extra bedroom? I mean, I could just I could train the pig for you." And that's precisely what I did. So I got one of the cushiest living sort of situations in all of New York City in exchange for essentially being a pig governess, which you can't make this stuff up, Seth.
You can't make it up. That is awesome.
So, and from that point, the offers started pouring in, and I began getting attention. The hoop community is kind of this very tight-knit niche community, as you can probably imagine.
Right.
It's global. It's worldwide. There's actually a lot of money within it. And it's, and people pay attention, their ears kind of perk up and they see who's doing what. And social media and YouTube is really powerful for that. And so I started developing a little bit of a reputation as a hooper, as a performer, as a teacher. And a company called Hoopnautica, which is the global sort of leader in adult hoop fitness, spotted me and started nurturing a relationship. And then the next thing I knew, I was being trained to be one of only 2 master trainers. So I was teaching and certifying hoop fitness instructors. And then from there, I started writing all of their curricula. I, kind of took what they had and developed it, wrote over 1,000 pages in training manuals, wrote DVDs. At this point now, I actually have a home, an actual income, and became essentially the face of the company. So everything from Shape Magazine, Redbook, 66 Minutes, which is like the 60 Minutes of France, but 6 minutes more because they're better at everything.
Right.
They think. No, I love them much. So, and then the next thing I knew, it's a Friday, and I was supposed to be headed to Houston to lead a teacher training, and I get the stop signal from the home office in LA. They said, don't get on the plane. I said, what are you talking about? I've got to go in about an hour. They said, don't get on the plane. We think you might be on Good Morning America on Monday. And I said, wait, are you serious? They said, yeah, and you can't do the training and fly home Sunday night and risk missing a flight or being tired. You're going to have to be up at 4 in the morning to be on live national television.
In New York?
In New York City.
Where you were just like 3 years earlier busking on the subway platforms.
Yeah, actually, you put it that way, it's kind of chippy. Suddenly now a limousine is being delivered to my door to pick me up and, offer me water, and I'm, whisked to Times Square, and they're doing my hair and my makeup, and, and went on to teach a couple of the anchors of Good Morning America on national television. Millions of views, crashed our website for days, and that's just one story, right? It's just one story. Just
one story.
Yeah, pretty remarkable.
Well, we're going to send people the follow-up to this. So, like, what can people learn from this story? How can they have their own from subway to limousine experience, from busking to national TV experience? And we're going to sign off on this segment, and we'll be back with Jacqui Becker. This is Seth Braun giving you some juicy tidbits of information to help you live your dreams, because why not? Why not live lit up and going for your best life? So watch for video number 2, where we're going to be answering questions like how you can find what you love, how Jacqui found what she loved, and how she made the decision to do it. We'll see you then.